Wait. Before you keep scrolling, answer me this one question honestly. Do you actually believe that being a good person keeps you safe? That kindness earns you loyalty? That generosity builds real relationships? That honesty commands respect? If you said yes, I need you to stay right here, because what I'm about to tell you is the most dangerous truth society has been hiding from you your entire life. Being good doesn't protect you. It destroys you. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why, and more importantly, how to flip it around completely. Intro. Here's what nobody wants to admit out loud. Goodness, in the wrong hands, used in the wrong way, is like handing someone a weapon and pointing it at yourself. Niccolò Machiavelli figured this out centuries ago. He didn't sit in a classroom and theorize. He watched kind rulers get dismantled. He saw generous leaders get betrayed by the exact people they protected. He witnessed honest men get crushed by those who simply played the game smarter. And he wrote it all down. Today, we're unpacking those hidden lessons, the real, uncomfortable cost of goodness that nobody talks about at dinner tables or in motivational speeches. You're going to learn why your kindness is quietly making you a target. Why your generosity is building resentment instead of loyalty. And most critically, how to take everything good about you and turn it into something powerful. Let me be crystal clear before we go further. This is not about becoming cold. This is not about hurting people or abandoning your values. This is about being good on purpose, strategically, not blindly. Because in a world full of wolves, wandering around like a sheep doesn't make you noble. It just makes you dinner. Drop this in the comments right now. I choose strategic goodness. Point 1. Goodness as exposure. Let's start with the first uncomfortable truth. Think about the kindest person in your life. Now ask yourself honestly, are they truly respected? Or are they simply the first person everyone calls when something needs to be done, something needs to be paid for, or something needs to be fixed? Here's the painful reality. When you are consistently kind, consistently available, and consistently willing to bend over backwards for people, you stop being seen as generous. You start being seen as predictable. And predictable people don't get respected. They get used. You become the one who always covers for the team. The friend who grabs the check every single time. The family member who can never say no, even when saying yes is costing you sleep, money, and peace of mind. I once watched the most talented team manager I'd ever met get passed over for a promotion, not because he wasn't skilled, but because he was too available. He never pushed back. He never protected his time. He always said yes. And leadership didn't see a leader. They saw someone comfortable in a supporting role. That's the trap. The moment people know you won't fight back, won't set a boundary, and won't say no, they stop seeing your goodness as a virtue. They see it as a vulnerability. Your open hand stops being an act of generosity and becomes an invitation. Machiavelli once said a leader must be both a fox and a lion, sharp enough to spot traps, strong enough to frighten threats. You've been operating as neither. And that's exactly why you keep ending up hurt. Drop this in the comments. I protect my energy. Point 2. The generosity trap. Here's something that sounds backwards but is psychologically proven. The more consistently you give to people, the less they value what you give. The first time you help someone, they're genuinely moved. The second time, they're thankful. By the 10th time, they're not thinking about how lucky they are to have you. They're thinking about when you're going to show up and help again. Your extraordinary gesture has become their baseline expectation. And here's the cruel twist, if you ever stop, they don't reflect on the 9 times you showed up. They fixate on the 1 time you didn't. Suddenly, you're the selfish one. You're the one who let them down. Think about parents who never say no to their children. At first, every gift is exciting. But soon, those gifts stop feeling like gifts. They feel like what's supposed to happen. And when a parent finally draws a line, the child doesn't feel grateful for everything they received. They feel cheated by the one thing they were denied. The exact same dynamic plays out in friendships, workplaces, and romantic relationships. You always pay. You always drive. You always show up. And somewhere along the way, those acts stop being appreciated because they've become invisible. They're just what you do. This is the generosity trap. You give so consistently that giving becomes your identity. And the moment you try to step back, even slightly, you become the villain. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Humans normalize good treatment at an alarming speed. What felt like a gift last month feels like a given today. Your constant generosity doesn't deepen loyalty, it manufactures entitlement. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote that benefits should be given gradually so they can be tasted fully. Scarcity creates value. Abundance destroys it. Drop this in the comments. I give strategically. Point 3. The mask of virtue. This one might make you uncomfortable. But here it is. Society doesn't actually care if you're good. Society cares if you look good. People don't judge your intentions. They judge your image. And the sooner you understand that distinction, the sooner everything changes. The most successful people you've ever admired didn't reach those heights by being kind to everyone, all the time, no matter what. They got there by being intentional about when, how, and to whom they showed their goodness. They knew when to smile in public and when to make the hard call in private. They knew when mercy served them and when firmness was necessary. This isn't hypocrisy. It's strategy. Think about a surgeon. They cause you real pain on the operating table. But they're not being cruel, they're doing exactly what needs to be done to save your life. Sometimes genuine goodness looks harsh in the short term and only reveals its value over time. Real leaders understand that appearing temporarily difficult is sometimes the price of creating lasting good. Setting boundaries looks selfish until people realize you're protecting your ability to keep showing up. Making an unpopular decision looks cold until the results prove it was right. Most people get this completely backwards. They show vulnerability to those who would exploit it and hold back their strength from those who need to see it. The wise approach is the reverse. Machiavelli said it plainly, everyone sees what you appear to be, but very few experience what you actually are. Perception builds reality. If the world perceives you as weak, weakness becomes your reality. Control the image and you control the dynamic. Drop this in the comments. I control my image. Point 4. The economics of power. Everything costs something. Every favor. Every yes when your gut said no. Every hour spent solving someone else's problem while your own dreams sat waiting. Good-hearted people rarely think this way. They give until there's nothing left, then they feel exhausted, resentful, and somehow confused about why. The math is simple. Your time, your energy, your mental bandwidth, they're all finite. Every unit spent on others is a unit unavailable to you. That's not selfishness. That's arithmetic. Flight attendants understood this before any self-help book did. You secure your own oxygen mask first. Not because you don't care about the person next to you, but because a conscious helper saves 2 people while an unconscious one saves nobody. I spent years being the person who said yes to everything. Every small favor that turned into a 3-hour commitment. Every quick question that derailed an entire afternoon. I believed I was being good. But what actually happened? I started resenting people I genuinely cared about. My own work suffered. My own goals kept getting pushed back. And eventually I had less capacity to help the people who actually needed me. Saying yes to everyone is the same as saying no to yourself. And when you abandon yourself long enough, you start abandoning everyone else by default. The most impactful givers in history were not people who gave freely to everyone. They were people who said no relentlessly so that when they said yes, it meant something enormous. As Machiavelli put it, you cannot command others if you cannot first command yourself. Drop this in the comments. I protect my resources. Point 5. Strategic use of virtue. Let me be direct. I am not asking you to abandon mercy, generosity, or honesty. What I'm asking you to do is treat those virtues like tools, and use them with the precision of someone who understands their power. A sword on a shelf protects nothing. The same sword in a trained hand at the right moment can change everything. Your goodness works exactly the same way. Instead of helping everyone a little, help the right people enormously. Instead of being pleasant to every single person who crosses your path, be deeply kind to the people who actually matter in your life. Instead of saying yes out of habit, say yes deliberately, only when it aligns with your values and your direction. When you operate this way, 3 things happen automatically. Your help becomes more valuable because it isn't automatic. Your impact grows because you're focused instead of scattered. And people respect you more because selective generosity communicates self-respect. Think about the leaders who created genuine change. They didn't pour their energy into being universally liked. They poured it into specific, focused action. That focus is what separated meaningful impact from good intentions. Here's a simple filter. Before every yes, ask yourself 3 questions. Does this align with where I'm going? Can I give this without depleting myself? Will this person genuinely value what I'm offering? If the answer to any of those is no, you decline, kindly, clearly, and without guilt. And when you do say yes, you go all in. Your full effort. Your real attention. That's how your yes start creating loyalty instead of expectation. Drop this in the comments. I choose effective kindness. Point 6. The illusion of gratitude. Gratitude expires. This is one of the most important things you'll ever understand about human nature, and almost nobody talks about it openly. The help you offer, the sacrifices you make, the extra mile you walk, they have a shelf life in other people's memories. And that shelf life is shorter than you think. Help someone once and they're genuinely moved. Help them 5 times and they're still appreciative. Help them 20 times and your help has become part of the furniture. They don't notice it anymore. It's just what happens. And then, the one time you can't show up, the one time you say no or step back, that moment stands out like a flare against a dark sky. That's the moment they remember. That's the moment that defines you in their mind. This pattern plays out in every relationship, every workplace, every family. The person who is always reliable becomes the person everyone assumes will handle it. And when that person finally draws a line, they're treated like they've committed a betrayal rather than enforced a reasonable boundary. This is the illusion of gratitude. We think that doing more will generate more appreciation. But it actually does the opposite. Because appreciation requires contrast, and when kindness is constant, contrast disappears. The people who cherish your help the most are often the people you help the least frequently. That isn't a coincidence. Understanding this doesn't mean withdrawing from people. It means being deliberate. Let people feel your absence sometimes. Allow them to encounter problems you aren't rushing in to fix. That experience is what creates genuine appreciation, not more giving. Drop this in the comments. I create lasting impact. Point 7. Results over intentions. The world measures what happened, not what you meant to make happen. You might have the most genuine heart in the room. Your intentions might be completely pure. But if your actions don't produce the results you want, those intentions count for very little in the end. History doesn't immortalize people for meaning well. It remembers people who actually changed things. There's a difference between being nice and being good that most people never examine. Nice people avoid hard conversations. Good people walk straight into them. Nice people tell you what you want to hear. Good people tell you what you need to hear. Nice people keep the peace. Good people build something worth having peace inside of. The parent who enforces real consequences isn't being harsh, they're building a child who can function in reality. The teacher who gives honest grades isn't being cruel, they're preparing a student for a world that won't hand out participation trophies. The manager who holds high standards isn't being unreasonable, they're producing a team that actually grows. Surface-level kindness creates temporary comfort. Real goodness creates lasting change. Stop asking, will they like me? Start asking, will this actually make things better? That shift is everything. Drop this in the comments. I focus on outcomes. Point 8. Legacy and survival. Here's the final truth, and it's the most important one. You cannot leave a mark on the world if you don't survive long enough to make one. Survival, in business, in relationships, in life, requires more than goodness. It requires intelligence, strategy, and the willingness to be firm when firmness is what the moment demands. The kindest people on earth cannot help anyone if they've been worn down, taken advantage of, or completely drained by those who mistake generosity for weakness. You have to build yourself before you can lift others. You have to survive before you can create a legacy worth having. That means protecting yourself so you remain capable of protecting others. Setting boundaries so you have something real to give. Making hard calls so you remain someone worth following. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. What he was really saying is that respect outlasts affection. Impact outlasts popularity. Results outlast feelings. You don't have to choose between being good and being strong. You can be both. You should be both. But if you've been operating as if goodness alone is enough, as if intention replaces strategy, then you've been leaving your power on the table. Close. Here's where we land. Goodness without strategy is a trap. It makes you exploitable. It drains everything you have. It creates expectations you cannot sustain. And in the end, it prevents you from making the impact you actually came here to make. But goodness with strategy, that becomes something else entirely. It becomes influence. It becomes leverage. It becomes a life and a legacy that actually means something. You now understand the real cost of blind kindness. You see why unlimited generosity breeds entitlement, why gratitude fades faster than you think, and why intentions without results are invisible. More importantly, you know what to do differently. So here's the only question that matters as you finish watching this. Are you going to keep doing goodness the old way, scattered, boundaryless, and draining, until there's nothing left of you? Or are you going to start doing it the new way, intentional, focused, and powerful? Because here's the thing about this video. You might think you've heard this before. You haven't. And if you sit with what was actually said here, not just the surface, but the deeper layers, you'll realize there's something you missed the first time through. Watch it again. The second time hits differently. Drop your final affirmation in the comments. I master strategic goodness. Don't be the sheep. Don't even be the wolf. Be the shepherd, the one with the wisdom to protect what matters, the strength to confront what threatens it, and the strategy to make goodness actually work. See you in the next one.